Hashtag WE win or hashtag SSG win. The unenviable task of facing SK Telecom in the finals is what's at stake here, gentlemen. And I know where the crowd is cheering behind the last LPL representative.
Yeah, and I feel like it's going to be very difficult for particularly Shie this game on that Kassadin that he has picked into the Taliyah. Not necessarily because of a lane matchup post-6, but because of a team fight matchup in the later game against the Kennen, J4, Taliyah, Tarek. So much CC to try and lock him down.
The headaches certainly never end on the side of Samsung Galaxy when it comes to all those engage options. Really only the Rakan for engage on WE's side. To me, on a macro sense, before the action really gets going, big way for WE to win this game is relentlessly gank the Kennen. If both Kassadin and Kassadin and Shen can enter the Kennen lane, that's the way they can win with the 1-3-1.
All right, well, keep an eye on how well that can get set up. Papa Smithy will be a little bit of time before that can happen. Double teleports on the side of Team WE. Important to keep note of. Ben, by the way, running the Ignite in that bottom lane, trying to take advantage of that Xayah Rakan power. And after Team WE group is 5, place the wards. It is somewhat mirrored, but not quite as deep by Samsung Galaxy.
And I want to discuss what has been done here at the level 1, because all the wards from WE are placed in the top side. So their safe place to go for the starting camp is where they have vision, is the top side. WE want to play top side because that doesn't allow Cuvée on the Kennen to overextend in the Shen lane. If the top side is controlled, that allows them to really try and shut down the counter matchup.
This feels like a bait. Shie and Mystic are available. Body slam goes forward. The explosive charge popped. Condi runs for his life. Now it's just burning. But somebody heal forced to be used. Picked up by Mystic.
And you have to question what Samsung was thinking there, camping 4 people in the jungle with Cuvée set up top side. Yeah, the map was split in their favor down bottom side, and they really didn't expect 957 to be there, but that is a huge play for Team WE.
The word you use is expect, and with preparation, with how you scrim, you do not normally see a re-invade against a Taliyah team, against a pretty good level 1 team. They were caught off guard, because in Korea you'd expect people to play to where they'd place the vision at level 1. WE re-invade, and they get the maximum from it.
Unbelievable, and it lands in Mystic's hands as well. Now, he's not gone back-to-back to spend any of that additional advantage and is flashless for now. But what a great start for Team WE and a great confidence builder as they open up the series against Samsung Galaxy. And now we're going to settle into the normal lanes, everything as expected.
Yeah, and until the first base for Mystic, that gank doesn't actually mean that much. You can see Ambition has taken red buff, Condi is maybe a little bit ahead of him in the jungle, but the starting items are exactly the same. What actually happened by 957 being late to lane is he lost out even a little bit more than you may have thought against that call Kennen. So there will still be the potential for 2 out of 3 shoving lanes for Samsung and Ambition to make some engaged plays. With no flash, that definitely hurts him a little bit, but until the chop happens, Samsung still have pushing lanes.
The best news story is that at least Ambition's timings when it comes to gank timings, when it comes to being there for a counter gank, if the first gank is made for Condi, are likely to be delayed slightly because he had to get to the jungle a little bit later. There is that small window, but Condi has a level 3 advantage or might have the positioning advantage on the map.
All right, where is he at the moment? Still currently a little bit of an invade on this top half of the map. We mentioned, or during Picks and Bans, we mentioned that Condi could trend towards Shie's lane, just cover and help him out until he gets that level 6 and access to Riftwalk. We've seen that Xayah and Rakan twice here at Worlds. It's 2-0 up until this stage of the tournament. And the lane's definitely pushing as expected. I think Mystic and Ben trying to deal with some of this early push that Rula and Korjaj had set up. It hasn't quite yet maybe normalized, if that's the right word.
Yeah, so let's talk about this right now. I think the starting items do speak fairly largely to how Samsung is wanting to play this lane. They've gone heal barrier, which is very defensive, and then on top of that, they've actually gone for the relic shield on the Tarek as well, rather than going for an ancient point opener. So the gold generation will be lower for Tarek, but it does make them so much tankier for these little fights.
Oh, the knockup connects onto Rula. Barrier and flash is still available to him. That's the rocket jump away. Korjaj now running for his life. Ben and Mystic continue to pressure Samsung away, but they end up winning the 2v2.
Looked like Rula took more auto attacks than he needed to in that trade. Hard to say just out the corner of your eye, but regardless, very nice trade there. Level 3 is when Xayah and Rakan really come online, when they have access to all their abilities. That means they're in a comfortable spot, even with the Doran Shield regen starting for Rula.
Try to buy as much time as they possibly can. Condi had already pushed into that top half of the jungle where you can see Ambition. He just showed his face and is now full back to try and clear as many camps as he can. On the first teleport for Shie, just get him back into lane. He's got the blasting wand after his first back. The damage start. We'll see whether or not he can accelerate this Cassidy, because of course for Team WE, staying ahead in the early game, setting up that 1-3-1, not allowing themselves to get engaged on by this heavy engaged comp that Samsung have put together, is going to be so vital to allow the Shen and Cassidy to do work.
Absolutely, and I think the blasting wand's a pretty aggressive move for him right there. No defensive stats, gets blown into Crown. This is trouble.
That is indeed. The force boss, I think, was missed. Flashes away from the flag and drag. Now Crown is in trouble. Body slam comes down. Teleport was started by 957 first and cancelled. In fact, does not leave base. QV also channeled his.
That's big. QV was actually already in lane, had run back with the... Actually stayed in lane, hasn't backed yet. So 957 will have to walk back. QV will get a better back timing. No other big advantages there. Getting GA's flash as a trade for crowns. It's decent at level 5, but from level 6 Rift Walk means the Caston will be inherently safe.
Yeah, I think that turned out fairly well for Team WE. I can understand why Samsung would go for a gank. I think it was pretty well played by both sides, with the teleports both being canceled right at the last second.
I didn't quite see if the rocket jump was interrupted or not, but Ben seems to be finding a lot of knockups on that grand entrance onto Rula. And let's see how this continues to play out. So quickly draw their attention to Ambition. We talked about how important and pivotal he can be. At the moment, obviously, a little bit of a deficit from that early shenanigans going awry, but such a stark contrast in performance.
Yeah, I mean, you can see in group stage, some people were calling him a first blood magnet. He gave it up 3 times in the 5 games that he played and never got a kill or assist. But it was a completely different story in the quarterfinals. Gives up first blood once again in this game, and you wonder if he's going to be able to bounce back.
The thing I took away from those stats, though, is that his jungle proximity from groups to quarters went up 4%, not a massive amount, less than 10%. His gank involvement, or his kill and assist involvement in the first 15 minutes went from 0% to 86. So it's not like he spent more time ganking, it's just that he was much more on point with his timings, and the rewards were clear for everyone to see.
And I do think it's going to be fairly difficult for him to find an advantageous gank in this situation where he's up against a Shen with Stand United when both top laners have traded teleport in the exchange gank mid. So wherever Ambition goes, it needs to be an incredible orchestrated gank, and probably needs Crown ulting in as well if they want to match numbers.
Yeah, my read this game is maybe gank itself is not what Ambition's best use is. We already said they have pushing lanes in 2 spots, getting more objectives, setting up the extra objectives rather than actually adding kills and assists. Basically being the icing on top of the cake that is pushing lanes is more going to be his focus.
All right, let's see how that plays out. Body slam comes forward from Kondi, that at least gets the flash from Crown, a big threatening move.
Really like that play out of Condi right there. And I actually like the heal out of Crown as well, because that most likely gave him the move speed to get out of range of the body slam flash combo. So a good bluff there by Condi, getting a summoner spell for nothing.
Coming back to the draft though, extending the laning phase, stopping them from being fast push is really important. The side of WE doing it so far is trading down bot.
A lot of damage back and forth. The barrel gets out onto Core JJ, forces the flash. It looked like Ben changed a little bit of target priority there. Dashing onto Core JJ instead of Rula. Catching Core JJ a little unawares. Team WE still ahead. By the way, first backs, fairly aggressive as well in the bottom lane. Mystic got BF Sword and Cull with that bonus first blood gold. That's just going to accelerate him to that sort of Essence Reaver first item spike.
Yeah, the build from Xayah is always a little strange, because I feel like, well, champions like Tristana spike on IE plus Shiv, Xayah needs the 3rd item as well, Essence Reaver plus Zeal item plus IE, so the Cull is trying to speed him up to that moment since he's going to be weaker anyway. They're really just trying to attack this bottom lane before Core JJ gets level 6.
Stand United's available for 957, and Hubei, by the way, does have his teleport up. Not enough minions to work with, so Team WE forced to back away. They don't get the tower, they get a lot of damage down. And Samsung maintain some line of defense, but this is how we expected that 2v2 to play out, with Mystic and Ben really shoving Rule and Core JJ in the whole time.
Yeah, and Samsung did split the map a little bit on the other side, which allowed Team WE to make that aggressive posture play. Zeep, you can notice the ward on Team WE's blue buff, and now it's kind of a matter of greed from Team WE, and how much do they want to push the envelope on this turret. It's low, but the teleport is back up from Cube. You have Crown, who's level 8. The collapse is a very real threat if they continue to try and finish off this turret.
Right now for Samsung, the pushing lanes haven't led to anything. All the attention's been bot side, where the Zion Rakan Lovers duo have been able to do a lot of work, and the Kassadin and Shen are getting through laning phase a lot more comfortably than you might expect. Sure, a 20 CS-ish advantage topside, but we actually have Kassadin winning in CS in the mid lane, and Crown has no blue buff, so he's even controlling the lane pretty well.
Oh, the Blade Caller locks down Ruler. He's puts down the satchel charge in reply, still holding on to flash and buster shot. Really playing defensive with those summoners. Barrier was secured though.
Yeah.
There's just so much action this game, trading non-stop in the lanes.
And that was barrier for not much. And Ambition actually walks directly through the Scuttle Crab, intentionally most likely, just to get them off of Ruler. Ruler wants to be able to farm, get this wave off, and probably force another recall cycle before that turret would just fall from pressure.
And that's the key point. If he doesn't enter lane, Ruler leaves first, the turret goes down. So he just needs to be the person to actually get the preferential back timing, and Ben's even going to pull them in.
Yeah, and that's one of those ganks from Ambition that are going to hurt his stats because he's going to up the jungle proximity now. He was near his bottom lane, but it's really the correct play to do at that moment because it ends up saving the turret.
So a little bit of pressure relief then from Ambition, keeps Ruler, CoreJJ alive as well as their tower. There's not a lot of pressure relief for 957. He continually is being hammered in by Cuvee. Cuvee's up around 20 CS at this stage.
They're going to get the turret anyway.
All right, Tower's going to force a bit, and Mystic. Do they now back and pull off some sort of swap, alleviate the pressure for 957? Is it a possibility?
Well, this is actually huge for them because they can back and I need to double check to see if they have enough gold to get Ardent Sensor, because if they can get the Ardent Sensor, that's substantially before CoreJJ, and they can essentially keep that turret lead alive.
Yeah, crashing bot lane turret first is massive for WE, because what did we say? Shen, Castor, not great wave clear. If you can send your duo lane there, start pushing in with those lanes, start actually opening up the turrets, getting a turret lead with these double globals, triple globals, including the Shen. That Ardent Sensor is big, and right now, actually, they're going to return to bot lane, so for now, not looking to crash other turrets.
Yeah, you can see the priority he puts on it, though. No control ward, no Nomad's Medallion. He waits an extra 15 seconds, but it's worth it because now, any trade they take, as long as they don't get all in, they will sustain back up. This is the strongest point in the game with which to build that item.
All right, Essence River completed, Rod of Ages completed, Ardent Sensor completed, and a Stand United. If ever there were invites to party in the bottom lane, teleport and Shie's Kassadin as well. Condi's even making his way down. This is, the options are there if Ruler and CoreJJ stick around. Now, they've got no tower to fall back to, so it's going to be risky if they chase it up. Instead, Shie is going to go for a nice cheeky roam up top.
He's got an angle on it, but he walked right through a wall.
Waiting for the flash, and just so easily secured. 957 gets the credit.
He was standing on a control wall, but there was nowhere for Cuvee to go. This Kennen is very squishy, and the straight-up matchup, sure, but right now, all expectation there would be that bot lane party, Trevor.
Yeah.
The RSVPs didn't go out, turned up it was a top lane gank, and it was lethal.
And that's the second time in this game where Team WE, I feel like, has defied the expectation of what Samsung thought. They thought Caston was going to go bottom lane to try and start that party, but he goes top lane. The other one was the early jungle. And Cuvee doesn't want to flash over the wall because she is waiting for him. Then they just managed to chain their kill right at the end.
I mean, the timings were beautiful. Started with the Shadow Dash just as the Rift walked over into the control ward vision was there, and Cuvee already knew his demise was imminent. So map pressure, map presence for WE, despite having the lanes that are naturally going to be pushed in, is higher than that for Samsung. And a lot of Samsung's early game power we talked about in draft has largely been negated by the playstyle of WE.
Well, the early game power that was on Team WE that unlocked it. Mystic is now roamed to mid with the support of Ben and Shie waiting in the wings. We can take a look at some of his stats between groups and quarters. Also, you know, how the team has played around him.
I mean, you see the difference in CSD and you think, okay, Mystic must have had a four quarterfinals, but it was about matchups. They played Cogmore 4 times in that series, and they even won the last 2 games, won 2-2 overall. They weren't picking the Caitlyn pushing lanes, Caitlyn Jana, which was their standby in the second week of groups, and that just means your CSD numbers are bound to go down.
Team still rallies behind him. They get his items, and then they fight and win. That was sort of the Team WE mantra. Wait for that Cogmore to become online, and then find all of the fights necessary. Let's see whether or not Team WE can do the same. Because of the fact they moved and chipped away mid tower, it's almost donated this bottom outer turret to Samsung Galaxy. No real move to defend. However, you can see the duo lane moving up to the top. So what else can Team WE take away?
Well, right now, by giving up bottom, they're trying to take top and then probably control the Rift Herald. Where this play gets interesting is what happens after these turrets are traded and how the pace of the game reacts to it. Cloud Drake is up, second tier turret is also Dival with the Taric Talia cannon.
Actually suits Samsung as well because it means their dual lane isn't exposed to that Ardent sense of disadvantage they would have been in. Still no shock from Core JJ. They're grouping as well. They're looking for that second turret.
I think Samsung should actually be very happy with this outcome right now. The fact that they're able to get the gold on Tristana, and it's just a matter of what they're trying to pull off after the fact.
Juve's looking for the 1v1 with 957. Going to be coming in. Stand United. Featherstorm buys enough time. The root holds Juve in place. 957 saves Mystic's life. Shie completes the teleport. Rift walks forward. And 957 gets the third of the game for WE.
It was a bait by Mystic right there. Cuvée nearly had the burst, but he got so much out of Team WE. Cuvée probably didn't expect them to use so much on it, but they did, and they get the kill.
He's kind of in Hoonie duty in this particular game where he's trying to create map pressure, knows he's likely to be outnumbered with the nature of Shen and the TP Kassadin, accepts that the team is going to pick up a Drake and answer. When it comes to laning matchup, he has a CS lead, but nothing else to show for it.
Gentlemen, it's just past 15 minutes, and it's a 2,500 gold lead for the team with Shen and Kassadin on their sides, and this tower's exposed. Let's see how the shenanigans break out with the Rift Herald as Samsung Galaxy looking to at least contest. Slicing Maelstrom's on cooldown though.
And Samsung still have a very strong team fight. Let's not undercut the amount of base damage that Talia brings and the power of the initiation combo of a J4 with a Taric ultimate plus an AP cannon flying in there. So Samsung can still be of the mind that it just takes one really good fight to get completely back into this game.
Ironically, I think the biggest power for WE, despite the fact that they can certainly team fight, is in the 1-3-1. If both Kassadin and Shen can deal it, we'll hold the point.
Well, flash quickness into the knockup. Crown is going to survive just long enough to get away. The Ignite ticks down. Riptor closes it out as Shie dashes forward. Team WE have a 4-man stack in the mid lane, and now they're sending a sight to the tower.
And they want to keep pushing the tempo. They're using so many of their flashes and teleports aggressively and getting exactly what they want out of them.
And it's turning into a pick comp basically on the side of W, not necessarily something you would say when you saw the draft. It's working so far, but it's about the objectives after the kill. Getting a much safer Rift Herald with Crown dead and unable to rejoin even with Weaver's Wall available. They won't take the mid lane turret, but WE purely control the pace of this game.
Well, I think this absolutely is a 1-3-1 team composition that relies on the picks. That's what they're able to generate right here as Crown is in mid with both summoner spells, has ambition right there, so he feels pretty safe. But Ben and Shie burst so much damage. This is a 2-man gang that was able to kill Crown.
He goes down here, the Rift Herald, no doubt taken, is confirmed, picked up by Condi as well. Splitting the map is going to be so powerful for W, and they have backup teamfight options, and for now, all Samsung can do is push back minion waves, but actually grow any leads.
All right, now Cuvée is going to be under further pressure. Rift walks up for Shie, slicing Maelstrom will buy some time. It's 1,000 hit points to burn 3. Cuvée is going to try to turn it off. They're hitting away on Shie. Shie clears out the wave. And this venue erupts as Shie survives.
That's one of those plays that can swing the momentum of a game, and it again goes over to Team WE. The flash at the very end by both of them, the near minion kill, and the execute right down the stretch.
And the biggest commiserations to Cuvée, who played that perfectly, but he was 0-2 at the time, already 1-0-3. The Kassadin behind in items means that the outplay doesn't count for anything. We're going to see the replay here. Shie comes in. I thought Cuvée was going to be done. I thought already we had the point where Kassadin and Shen could easily 1v1 Cuvée, but then he turns it around.
The magic damage shield from the Q that helps out a little.
And watching that play, Cuvée landed absolutely every spell and the stun, but the lead was just too large by Shie. So credit to Shie for taking the fight with his advantage, but man, was that close.
All right, Condi goes for the invade, and the smite fight also wins that one out. Rift Herald still in the back pocket and available. Team WE, as we're getting close to 20 minutes, they're hitting 2 items almost across the board and looking for yet another tower.
Yeah, and they are having one of those games where every play they are making is working, so that only infuses them with more confidence based on the lead, and they got to keep this tempo up while they have the lead.
All right, gonna catch out onto Ambition. He gets the dunk down from the Cataclysm. Cosmic Radiance buys some time, but the blades gonna continue firing out. Ambition's able to run away with his life. He's holding my breath, expecting, anticipating further follow-up. The Team W will be happy with the tower.
And they used so little on that fight. They got the Taric and the J4 out. They didn't use any summoner spells. It was just a Jarvan ultimate, and they already had the cast and split pushing. Now they pop down the Rift Herald. They're going for it all.
They feel confident enough to use it very late.
Featherstorm used by Mystic to stay alive there. 957 and the Stand United help Shie get yet another kill onto Cube. That 0-4 is so unfortunate. Not a telling tale of this mid-game. And WE have played and punished him in such a beautiful way. And Team WE on the bottom tower.
In every position on the map, WE are ahead. They're looking for more.
Oh, they are indeed. Ambition's the next target. Taunt comes in from 957. Two-man knockup from the grand entrance of Ben. Team WE in and out, continuing to press this lead. It's a 6,000 gold advantage. This tower's going to fall as well.
Yeah, Condi as well, consistently pressuring Samsung away from the aggressive zone, building the full tank support version of the Gragas. 6,600 gold, 20 minutes in.
I think every analyst came into this series wondering how good is Team WE, but they were also at the back of their head probably saying, how good was Samsung? We came in with 3 Longzhu predictions in the quarters. It ended up being a Samsung 3-0. Seeing a replay here of, once again, a snowboard Cassidy and Shen coming in, piggyback right there. And now we come to this series, and WE had a pretty narrow win condition, at least for the early game. Play around the Xayah and Rakan lane. They unlocked that lane, got the first turret, and everything from there has been picture perfect.
And they have been attacking Cuban, which is technically the vulnerability when you pick one of these off-meta carry top laners. They cannot absorb gank pressure the same way that a lot of the tank picks can. And Shie and 957 have been basically duo queuing and ganking Cube over and over again, who hasn't been able to get any help, thanks to what Mystic and Ben have been pressuring and demanding out of Ambition bot side.
And that's the kind of the thing is straight up Mystic and Ben are winning bot side and WE are taking down the top side. Then you have to have question marks about Ambition. The fact that Crown has been corralled in the mid lane also hasn't been able to roam at all. Samsung have basically watched WE play close to the perfect game. They may have a turret, but everything else has been ideal for Team WE.
Well, Team W are going to set their sights on Baron, and in terms of all teams at Worlds, they've got some of the best Baron control. They've secured themselves 13, only conceded 4 all tournament long. When you consider they played 18 games, the World Championships, those are some impressive statistics. Pushing the vision into Samsung's territory and can fall backwards. Body slam used to catch out Ambition. Flag and drag gonna get him to safety. Blasco buys some time, but look at 957. Flashes over the wall and confidently gets another.
And the dilemma of playing Taric J4 from behind. The Taric ultimate is too slow. You can't use it for the initiation because you don't have the damage to burst them. Team WE is having their dream game 1 right now.
Insane how far ahead they are. They'll just happily switch off onto the Baron. They know Ambition is dead. Samsung can't face it. They've been picked so many times. 7 deaths from picks. No team fights at all in this game. And this should be icing on the cake for the game 1 WE.
8,000 gold lead before Baron. Extend that to just shy of 10. 3 items going to be across the board and Baron. I mean, now it should be trivial. Now it should be knocking over the Nexus and figuring out how good is this Team WE.
Yeah, with that being said, the Shen Cassidy aren't exactly great sieging champions, so they still have to execute some of these dives. But watching this one more time, you can see the type of confidence they're playing with. Mystic is just chilling in the red buff pit and daring Samsung to fight him. Samsung's not willing to. Ambition had flash this whole time, wasn't willing to burn his flash early because they're trying to save as many tools as possible to try and get the engage, but it's one of those things that is just never happening for Samsung this game.
And it's also how the victory has happened from WE. Again, you just think back to the analyst desk. How will they get their win or their 2 wins, depending on the prediction? The late game team fighting prowess of Mystic specifically and playing around a Fed 80 carry. They have a Fed 80 carry, but not even anywhere near the 4-0 Shen, the Cassin that's been involved. It's been a team performance. It's been defying a lot of our recent expectations about WE. And it's been oh so clean.
Talking about team performance and expectations, I mean, the picks and bans from Team WE seem to work in their favor to an extent. The Xayah Rakan as well as the Cassidy and the Shen getting some comfort picks. But then you look at the playstyle and the prep, they read the reaction from Samsung on that invade and sort of called them out, punishing them to pick up first blood.
And by no means was this one-on draft. It was a good draft. You're giving up Xayah Rakan doesn't feel good as Samsung, but they have a comp they showed they can play with the same tools like CC and Initiation. It was about the execution from WE and Ambition, unfortunately being a bystander again after being pivotal on the Sejuani. He's off Sejuani duty that he was on solely in the quarterfinals, and he has not found action wherever he's gone.
And Team WE has also made some really good bets. The 5-man re-invade onto the blind side of their jungle to start the game to get first blood onto Ambition. On top of that, Shie's roam top at just the right time to catch Cuvée and start that snowball. And now, with the Baron, just setting up that perfect 1-3-1 and taking down all the turrets.
It feels so bad to be 1-3-1 by Shen and Cassidy with a pushing advantage. Mid lane also so low. Waiting for that last final moment.
All right, body slam and barrel has been used by Condi. Cataclysm comes down. Thunderstorm will buy some time for Mystic if he needs it. Doesn't just yet. Ambition's the target. Finally the feathers fly, and Mystic runs for his life. The blades and the quills get a second of the fight. The base is broken open, and before 25 minutes, Team WE are pushing for the Nexus.
This is at least 2 inhibitors, but they got a chance to go for a game. They still got 20 seconds on Ambition and 30 on Cuvée.
There's not enough in the tank for Samsung to defend. 5-on-3. Crown has to pull off a miracle as Ruler's trying his best to wave clear. Baron empowered cannon minion. They're doing work on the tower. And WE, they're not biting off more than they can chew.
No second minion wave pushing in, only the cannon. As you can see, minion wave too far, so that will extend the game. Samsung made the sort of move where if you're equal in gold, maybe it works, but from behind only hastens their demise. Great teleport ward there for Cuvée. A fed AP cannon, and maybe this is a one-team fight, but there's no fed members on Samsung.
I do say the team fight is also desynced. Ambition is dead before the cannon gets in there, and he only does about 40% of Mystic's health before he lifesteals up with the Warlord's proc. So Samsung has been out of sync for much of this game. And even though they were so locked in against Longzhu in that 3-0, this is looking more like the potentially shaky Samsung that we saw from group stage, at least in this one game.
So important to see how Samsung bounce back from this game. Of course, Team WE, they had side selection, they elected blue, picks and bans played out, then the game played out, some great decision making as we've discussed, and now we see if WE can keep that up all series long. They're going to push this wave down bottom, and top teleport is up for Xie, teleport is up for 957. No Stand United yet, but it will be fairly soon, and with all the work that Xie had done bottom lane, it's just going to be a couple of autos left on this inhibitor turrets.
Yeah, every single 1v1 or 2v2 skirmish, Samsung are exposed. It's not quite falling, cresting on 3 downed inhibitor turrets.
Yeah, still no teleport on Cuvée, but he does have flash, and he's just isolated against this level 17 Cassidy, by the way. A 4-level advantage on the split pushing cannon.
Oh boy, that is ridiculous. And of course, because Crown showed top, Team WE used that momentary 4v3 and instantly push into the base. There's a body slam, flash. They get the kill before the Radiance can even come down. Cuve's doing what little he can of that slicing maelstrom, but he's the man that gets cut down. Ambition picks up the first and only kill of the game in favor of Samsung before being taken down himself. And Xie's hourglass prevents any further casualties. A 14-1 kill score. Team WE crushed Samsung in game 1.
And what a way to open up the series for Team WE in front of the home crowd, trying to bounce back for the LPL after that crushing defeat they had yesterday at the hands of SKT. It's a long series, and we know both these teams are incredibly versatile, especially Samsung for their ability to adapt, but that's a hell of a statement in game 1.
Yeah, it's all about sample size, Jat. You look at that sample size of quarterfinals, you come in with a set prediction. Surely Samsung will take it comfortably, but it's been a long road for Team WE all the way from the play-ins to now. They have changed their tone a couple of times. They have changed their style, like the Caitlyn and Rumble showed us. This was them playing proactive on the sort of comp that you thought had to weather an early storm. Seems like the forecast was off. They controlled the early game, and for the side of Samsung, they just watched the team execute by far better than they could on the day.
And so much credit to Team WE for this victory. You know, executing on the draft, playing well. I think the term that you used, Jat, was some good gambles or some good calls in terms of that blind invade and the roams from Xie. Now Samsung have to do all of the repair work. How do they bounce back from a defeat where you have been so outclassed?
Yeah, Team WE smashed them, and they did it with the Kassadin and even the Xayah, which wasn't as prioritized, at least in the group stage. So maybe a slightly different look than what Samsung was expecting. Samsung adapted across weeks. Now they have about 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Good luck. We'll see what they do and how they bounce back. But to get their thoughts on how game 1 played out, let's head to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much. Quick shot. 15 minutes is basically as long as game one took. A near perfect game out of WE. They came to play today, boys. We had some questions around preparation for both of these teams. The expectation is that Samsung Galaxy would come in with a plan, and whether or not WE would be able to match up against it. Let's set the table with picks and bans.
I mean, Samsung definitely had a plan, but I think the first pick, Rakan, in some way probably surprised them. A lot of teams will first pick Zaya. You get Rakan, Tristana on your side, and Samsung's like, perfect, yes. Rakan for Core JJ, it's awesome. Best AD carry as well for Ruler. But the Rakan first pick also meant that Samsung didn't actually want Zaya. They wanted Tristana. That was the entire plan. And then you give Zaya Rakan?
Yeah, and it felt right from there. It even just got worse. Every single question that WE posed to Samsung in this draft phase was met with a similar answer of fumbling, or we don't know, what do we have to answer any of this? You get Zaya and Rakan, and then the Shen added on top of it, which just bolsters up a bottom lane. That was one of the most feared combinations of all champions in the entire game coming to Worlds.
I mean, they might not have planned, but it kind of sucked, right? Like,
Okay, yeah.
If that was the plan, it sucked.
I mean, you have to look at the fifth pick here as well. It's like, oh, they're not even going to blind pick their top laner. They're saving it for the counter pick. Okay, they got a plan. It's coming. It's coming. Kennen?
Hit me with the 05
I mean,
AP
it
Kennen.
doesn't really make sense to me because Kennen, to me, I don't even feel is that dominant into the Shen. It's especially when you're against a Gragas, it's actually pretty hard to be pushed up and playing aggressively. And then when you're talking about you want this amazing Kennen flank who's going to get in there and smash these immobile carries, except they have a Kassadin and they have a Zaya who can easily use their ultimates to avoid your ultimates. So, even if it was at a better place, it feels like it's very hard to actually execute with this pick. So when the last pick that everything is building up towards fails that hard, it feels really tough to win a game.
Yeah, even the Tarek pick, right? That's something you talk about
I like that.
execution. That's something that takes by itself a high level of execution to be able to pull off effectively in team fights and supporting cast. Yet into something like Rakan, which is lightning quick. You don't have time for their Cosmic Radiance to fall down. Gragas is good against it as well. There's so much disruption that you're already picking that into.
And that's why when we look at the completed drafts, we were like, okay, WE side, they have a super strong bot lane for the team with Mystic, who wants to have a super strong bot lane. That was absolutely perfect.
Ding, ding.
There you go. That's like, check, you got
That's
that
one.
957 on top side, loves to play Shen and be able to support the bottom side. All he had to do was not die on the top side. And of course, he managed to stay alive. Check. That was two of them right there. And then they love to have a mid laner who can roam as well and then apply pressure to the side
A lot
lanes.
of checks.
Wait, that's a
pretty
Kassadin right
good.
there?
That's another check. One other thing that we threw on that list? Ambition. And which form of ambition would show up today? Well, guess what? Early action in the game, within the first minute, ambition is the one to go down of all players.
Yeah, this was a little bit strange to me because Kume is up on the top side. They make a 4-man invade. Definitely not expecting, I think, Shen to be there in the full 5-man squad. But we had seen lane swap wards go down. They had the deep wards on the top side, so they felt that something was coming from Samsung. They anticipated, and they get a big advantage, which shut down Ambition even harder in the early game. But so much of the draft really just, I think, was very, very intelligent from WE, and it felt like Samsung didn't have the answers. Because even when you're looking at a Kassadin team, and you have a Tristana into a Kassadin, normally you're like, well, this makes a lot of sense. You're going to knock down the bottom turret, then you're going to go siege on the Kassadin.
Right, no
Kassadin
wave clear.
can't wave clear. Great. But Zaya Rakan is such a powerful bot lane, it's so hard to actually win that lane and take the turret. And even if they were losing, to have a Shen to back them up also, which makes it even more impossible to actually push up and take that turret. So how do you get the Tristana and the Tarek out of lane in a timely manner to then pressure this Kassadin and lock down the Kassadin before he can get to a side lane and succeed? Because that never happened.
I mean, you add that to the fact that, in the pregame segment, we didn't talk too much about CA specifically, right? We talk about Mystic and then the supporting cast, but here we have CA showing up big on that Kassadin pick. This replay brought to you by Acer Predator.
Yeah, he gets that counter pick early on in the draft phase, and he utilizes it so well. Crown was a complete non-factor on this Talia, not able to exert any sort of pressure, and Chie basically took over.
Yeah, I think there's only one lane Crown could have went to, that was top side. But then a Kassadin with TP can often follow as well. So it was really hard game to play Talia as well. Be like, where am I going to go? Bot lane? Bot lane, you're pretty doomed at least if you go down there as this Talia. So to me, it just felt like it was so hard to execute the draft from Samsung against a winning bot side with a Shen, and then this Kassadin who just free farmed mid.
Again, you would have to do something super early in a Talia versus Kassadin matchup, with a Jarvan visiting. But Ambition got really screwed at the level 1, and he got set behind himself. So
And he had the one gank. He did go mid once, got a flash, not enough, sadly, because then Cass hit level 6, and then
Yeah.
he can actually stay alive. And in general, there's good scouting, because that level 1 we saw earlier, Samsung did like to go in and ward red buff level 1 in the Longshore series. I think they looked at that and said, okay, if they do it again, we can actually try and punish.
I think it's very intelligent, and also, to talk about adaptation, the fact that WE is the ones banning away the Galio and the Lulu, they're saying we don't actually need to go to this COGS type style. We're very happy to play Xayah. Xayah has been under prioritized in a lot of these other series. People are not really up on it. When you think about the semifinal yesterday, there's Xayah nowhere, right? Xayah Rakan was even available in one of the games and was not really picked up. So it's kind of interesting to see how successful it can be when you see someone is this good at it.
Well, let's continue to talk about adaptation then, right? Because the series isn't over after game 1. As dominant as it was at a
Of
Team
course.
WE, Samsung does have their opportunity to respond. They have elected to go to blue side. We saw yesterday, blue side being, mostly dominant throughout the series. What would we like to see out of Samsung Galaxy in terms of adaptation moving from game 1 to game 2 to maybe take a victory here and equalize?
I mean, first of all, I want to see more adaptability when you start seeing the bans. Because as Azale just highlighted right there, when you see Galio, Janna, Lulu bans, most teams are not picking Kog'Maw there and being like, yeah, that's exactly what we want to play, because all the protection is gone. And they
Yeah.
banned it anyway with their last ban. I think you can do the same, though, on blue side now and say, okay, we don't want to risk. There is this protect comp for Mystic. And then if Xayah Rakan are open, I think you grab the Rakan yourself for core JJ, because I think these high aggressive supports that can engage are really good against a fairly slow team like Samsung.
Yeah, and I have to also give a lot of props to WE, because we're talking so much about draft phase, but they really showed why you can't give these champions over, right? The execution was definitely there from all members of the team.
And they deserve the credit for manipulating the draft to actually get that for themselves, right? Not only did Samsung have some mistakes in draft, but I think this is a triumphant draft, and they executed so well. And this is the kind of form that can be a bit intimidating, can shake you going into a second game. When you talk about mental fortitude in these best of fives, if you're coming in super confident as Samsung and you get slammed in game number 1, it can make you doubt some of your preparation sometimes.
I know you mentioned like how they manipulate the draft to get these picks here, but I really felt like Samsung in many ways were just gifting them the best champions available in the situation. Like the second ban phase, they banned Jason Cho'Gath
Yeah.
instead of a Shen. I'm like, I'm not going to credit the WE coach for getting that Shen pick. I'm going to say, Samsung, that was you again not adapting in the draft.
To that end, though, you said it right at the top of the segment that that Samsung Galaxy had to believe to some degree that the Tristana, they think that's the best AD carry, right? And so much of game 1s do determine what the meta will be for that best of 5 as a whole, and perhaps we'll see priority shift towards that Rakan and away from the Tristana as they valued it before.
We should still see Tristana, though.
You have to feel like Samsung thought that Kuve was going to be able to smash top lane into
Really?
a tank, right? So you ban out Jace, you ban out perhaps the most resilient tank in the Cho'Gath, and you say, all right, he's going to smash top lane. That's going to be how we win. And it didn't work out like that whatsoever.
All right, well, Team WE open up the series with a win for the home crowd. See if Samsung can bounce back as the series continues after the break.
Condi runs for his life. Now it's somebody here forced to be used. Picked up by Mystic. Rift walks up for Shie, slicing Mel's will buy some time. There's 1,000 hit points to burn through. Kubo's going to try to turn it off. Shie hitting all the brilliant. They're hitting away on Shie. Shie clears out the wave. Body slam used to catch out Ambition. Flag and Drag going to get him to safety. Blasco buys some time, but look at 957. Flashes over the wall and constantly gets another. Cataclysm comes out. Featherstorm will buy some time for Mystic if he needs it. Doesn't just yet. Ambition's the target. Finally the feathers fly. And Mystic runs for his life. Ambition picks up the first and only kill of the game in favor of Samsung before being taken down himself. And Shie's hourglass prevents any further casualties. A 14-1 kill score. Team WE crushed Samsung in game 1.
Untamed power. Limitless skill. Only one remains. Summon your strength.
Welcome back to Shanghai, where Samsung Galaxy are taking on Team WE. And in game 2 of the semi-final, Samsung have picked blue side. I don't think that'll be a big surprise to anybody that's been watching the playoffs. Has risen in popularity. Papa Smithy, what does Samsung have to do? Where do you think they turn their attention when it comes to pick and ban, and how and where they're going to change?
So on the blue side, you can set the tempo of the game. Game 1, they opted into the Lulu and Janna exchange bans. To me, Samsung Galaxy are kind of an enigma, because in LCK, they liked the extended games. They liked opting into things that would slow down the pace of the game and allow them to play late game fights. They did not find success from that in the quarterfinals, though. The group stages were up and down playing that style. In the quarterfinals, they tried to attack Longzhu's early game. Now I'm really left wondering where they see their own strength as a team, because it was a new lease on life to me for Samsung Galaxy in the quarters. Now on blue side, they really do get to shape the draft, I would say, in the bans.
Yeah, and in the quarterfinals, Ambition had so much success on Sejuani.
Yep.
So I'm really curious to see if they opt into some of those jungle bans, or if they actually just prioritize Sejuani above all. They can still ban Galio Janna on the blue side and orchestrate a first pick Sejuani and force that ban in from Team WE, and that's what I expect them to do. Ambition needs to have early game effectiveness, and Sejuani's been his best pick for that.
Well, it was unfortunate for Ambition. The game somewhat lost around him in the laning phase in the last few minutes. Of course, Team WE, they banned that Sejuani, Galio, and Lulu, as we've covered extensively. And as we jump into game 2 picks and bans, straight out the gate, Lulu will expect the Callista to follow on the side of Team WE, as has been 100% pick demand from groups and now playoffs. It's only got a few appearances during the play-in stage.
So the only reason to me that Samsung Galaxy ban Lulu, because Core JJ I think is strongest on the likes of Lulu and the Enchanter supports, is they want to have force bans onto Team WE's side. If you see a Lulu blue side, you expect an answering Janna red side ban along with Callista already, and then the chance of getting that Sejuani first pick rises for the side of Samsung. But I think WE is going to try to set up a trade where, sure, if Sejuani goes one way, Galio may be available for the side of Team WE. So I feel like the bans here, Samsung is setting the tone so far, but WE could try calling their bluff.
Yeah, and you really have to wonder what priority the Galio will have. Crown has played it. Very few people have gotten to play it. Faker got to play it 5 times, and Xie has also been dominant on the pick. So whenever you're leaving up stuff like Sejuani or Janna and Galio, you're leaving up a crew of champions, you wonder what the other team's going to get in return.
37 games played at the World Championships with a 70% win ratio. That's Galio, and still remains off the ban pool. Zaya joins Cogmore, Tristana, Callista.
It's a lot of 80 carry bans.
Yep, it is.
Letting you know that they don't want to give over Zaya Rakan on the red side from a first pick Sejuani, or I guess now, maybe even a first pick Galio or Janna, because all 3 of those are available. Team WE, if they're confident enough to play into Janna, which has been dominant, especially recently, they can leave all 3 up and take the best 2. Now it's going to feel like more of a 1-for-1 trade.
This, to me, shows you how much Team WE respects Ambition's Sejuani. Because Ben, as we mentioned, has won 12 times on Janna this year, lost 0. And they could have orchestrated the world where they get Sejuani Galio, but you know what else they can get? Jarvan
The
Galio.
big 3, even throwing in a big 80 carry pick in. Not the Cogmore, of course, so it can't be the full LPL special, but Jarvan and Galio are those mid-game teamfight gods.
But if they do lock this in, which they will,
Yep.
their Team WE, this
Yep.
is their favorite combo, it does give over Janna Twitch. So we have the 2 best hyper carries in Cogmon Twitch and the 2 best hyper carry enablers in Janna and Lulu. 2 of those have been banned. So Samsung can get both of them and control that aspect of the game.
And that's why it's so fascinating, Jap, because I see 2 combos that Samsung will consider. They will also consider the Janna Twitch or the Janna Caitlyn. Varus would be on the Caitlyn side, where it'd be about lane dominance. This would be Samsung saying, our strength is early to mid. Let's avoid Team WE as a late game team fighting team, which is so counterintuitive, because to me, that's Samsung as well.
Well, does it also signify what else is going to get locked in the draft? We'll find out shortly as the Varus joins Malzahar in phase 1. This Jarvan Galio, by the way, 7 wins, 2 losses when combined together here at Worlds.
And the Malzahar makes sense. We have seen it rising as a counter pick, so to speak, to the Galio because of late game scaling. RNG was using it as a counter pick in the first 2 games against SKT yesterday and then abandoned it. So by no means is this a free win into Galio or an amazing counter pick. It's more of a thing that you're okay with doing. And because they picked Varus, Team WE get to have the Twitch.
Oh, now this makes phase 2 picks and bans so spicy. We heard the analyst there talking about Shen being let through whether the assumption was Cube's cannon was going to be fine into it, or whether they just didn't maybe factor it all together. That was one of the discussions from the previous game. This time around, however, it is a Kha'Zix and it is a Rakan to start things off. So pivots already. Cho'Gath was banned along with the Orianna. Champions that stand out in my mind, Papa Smithy.
And with confidence riding high, you wonder if WE just returns the Shenwell a second game in a row and has all the tools ready to keep Mystic alive. They basically set up their drafts around this player. A lot of respect being shown to Samsung. Samsung have the ability to once again draft for early to mid-game priority, but the game went away from that priority. It went against expectation with Condi smart jungling in game one and the bot lane falling apart. The reliability of Varus and Janna isn't the reliability of the Caitlyn duo, I would say, in terms of taking early turrets. So many questions, even though we're already into the second round of the draft.
Yeah, and the Taric is also one of the supports that they can't ban out if they do want to go for it. It does make them more of these team fighting behemoths that Team WE is building towards. And with the Kha'Zix ban, like, that is incredibly targeted when you're looking at the bans right here and you're like, okay, where's Gragas? Because that's absolutely something that Ambition can still take.
I mean, this is probably his best jungler historically this year, his most played as well over the course of spring and summer. The Gnar, which we saw be a big pick for Huni and was, well, Cube brought back to the meta just before Rift Rivals. There's ultra comfort here in the second round for Samsung.
Let's see how this Gragas performance for Ambition will size up the competition, because if it is the most comfortable, the most successful, the 27 pick, and it falters in game two, what could this mean for Samsung Galaxy? Team WE, final answer, and the hot pot composition.
You must complete the combo.
And it bridges the power gap so well as well. They have the Rumble here, so now even early to mid-game before two items, WE have a lot of potency. It is about as trademark as can be from Team WE, but Samsung have options. We saw yesterday the Gnar versus Rumble matchup go well for the Gnar, and although Gnar is pretty standard and Gnar coming back into the meta wasn't really about balance levels changing, the fact that Cube goes very innovative with his builds. He's gone rapid fire and he's built BF swords on the Gnar in the top side. He is happy to really attack the split push pressure and then just be in there for the perfect Gnar ultimate as well.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see this game play out, because yes, Jarvan Galio is a lethal combo, but we've also seen a lot of teams have success with Gnar split push against a team that is trying to force 5v5 team fights. And Samsung has brought a lot of disengage. They have Janna and Gragas. They have also brought multiple pushing lanes that can be able to diminish the pressure and make it more difficult for Team WE to find these wombo combo fights. So I think it's a really high execution barrier on Samsung to prevent those team fights from coming across. But if a team's going to do it and a top laner is going to do it, it's going to be Samsung and Cube.
Oh, all the disengage to try and counter all of the engage. Oh, these fights are going to be so spicy. You can see the team comps on your screens. Gentlemen, I just want to give you a quick update, because of course there is only one person on the planet with 100% perfect pick'ems. I want to remind you that he picked Team WE to win this series. So let's see whether or not Team WE can use this engage comp to get closer and keep the one true Profits predictions alive.
Get back to me with who he picked to win Worlds, because then we can just end the broadcast today. We don't have to worry about the bird's nest.
I'd rather not, because I'm quite looking forward to the bird's nest personally. But listen to Shanghai getting behind Team WE. We're standing in front of the crowd, and I tell you what, it is a wall of noise that hits you.
It's only getting louder, Trevor.
Team WE did talk about Worlds being in their home region was to their advantage, and they wanted to make use of it. Samsung, though, called it an insignificant advantage, and they're trying to work past it. It's all about honing in on the game at hand.
The third seed from the LPL has come all the way from play-ins, and now in the semifinals. How far will their ride go? Mystic, it's already gone for a little ambush. There's no real juicy targets. They'll get a couple autos.
Got him.
And damage advantage. Get those DPM stats in your favor.
I like the WE once again have a level 1 plan. Samsung were very passive on level 1s throughout the majority of their games here at Worlds. So trying to find early aggressive wards to get information on pathing. Always something you can do at level 1, and Twitch can usually stealth in and get a ward down himself. They have one ward over on the red buff here, so at least have some advanced information, whereas Samsung, they're much more defensive and they have no advanced vision on the pathing from Condi.
Yeah, well, especially after what happened last game, I can understand the want for a defensive line. Samsung has this plan from before the game, from the draft phase. Cuve going to shove up topside. Ruler as well with the Varus, one of the strongest, probably the strongest super meta AD carry. If you don't consider Caitlyn high in the meta, Varus will win lane against the Twitch and the Cog and all the other picks. So they're trying to push that in the top and the bottom side.
Kind of interesting to see the Varus go Relic Shield. It hasn't been as common recently for Varus in particular, who you think is going to put the hurt on in the laning phase. To me, it says basically that Samsung think the only way this lane can really turn is if the Ardent Sensor comes in faster for the Taric, and they have a disconnect like there was in game one. So they're trying to at least, at worst, I should say, equalize the Ardent Sensor races. See Ambition and Condi with a tete-a-tete.
Cordon is roaming.
There's a lot of support coming in. Condi now needs to get away. This is a 3-on-2 at best. Make that a 4-on-2. Condi gets over the wall. Will there be any barrels to follow it up? Mountain Drake actually helps Condi, pushing him out of the pit. And Condi lives to fight another day.
Holds onto his flash as well, which can be so important. That reposition on the flag and drag. Upside, Cuve. Didn't make an R, but the trades are pretty good for the Nod.
Yeah, and a super interesting invade by Condi right there. A lot of times you go buff to buff with the Jarvan, but he may have been expecting a little bit longer of a clear from Ambition, like a full clear blue side before going over to his red. The fact that he ran into him and then kind of opted into a bit of a trade was extremely dangerous.
And Ambition's pathing was really interesting to track. He played multiple games on the same side of the map as Sejuani in the Longzhu series and would start Talisman one game, Machete another game, vary up his pathing whenever he was invaded on, specifically around Raptors. He always had a plan to defend his Raptors. In this case, got the face check out of Condi, but not the flash he really did prize.
Yeah, not enough pressure there to pick up the kill, but good reply from Samsung. Definitely roaming first. I mean, Crown, first one to leave that mid lane. He's going up against Xie's Galio, and you know, in the previous game, Xie had such a great casted performance. I'll get back to that in just a moment. Super easy first blood. Ambition just reads Condi like a book.
And Condi was super greedy right there. He got hit by the Scryer's Bloom. Ambition saw him at Wolves. Condi could expect an invade coming up, and then just didn't respect the flash from Ambition. That was, I mean, as easy as an amazingly strong scout from Ambition and great early game plan can be, the execution shouldn't have really happened. Condi should have accepted being pushed off of his buff, because now it's a double buff Gragas for Ambition, who can take his Raptors.
He's going to push in, invade the Raptors, try to continue to track the jungle. We'll see Condi actually spot him as well.
Ambition's flash is down. They're trying to pull something, but I don't even know if they can win the 2v2.
All right, the flag and drag gets him knock up into the taunt. The CC's been chained flawlessly.
He's out.
The Call of the Void comes out. Flash for flash over the wall. Ambition. Still 100 hit points to go through. Now Crown low
Gotta
on
land a skill
mana.
shot.
He can't do anything more. Wins it wall. Passes the double bounce. Xie gets the damage down onto Crown. And I started that story talking about Xie, and it ended with Xie.
Wow, I am very surprised that they turned that one around, knowing Ambition was level 4 with double buffs against a level 3 Condi, but they pull it off, and that is absolutely enormous for the overall flow of this game. Ambition was about to run away with it.
It was a really long passage of play. Like you say, Scryer's Bloom hits, Condi could leave, Ambition made the read that he was going to be greedy, and that greed was punished. But what happened after this? That Galio pushed out a mid, backed and warded, saw Ambition come and use his body slam onto the Raptors, knew the flash was down, and that's when they pounced.
And I wanted to see Crown help this out faster. He was making sure to shove the wave in and didn't immediately start applying threat to Team WE. He got a lot of Voidlings down and nearly pushed them off, but Xie gets the cooldown up one more time. On top of it, they also get Crown fairly low and force another recall.
Oh man, Xie now. Double buffs in the mid lane. Talked about his Castan performance really popping off in game one of this series, I believe is what the cool kids are saying. But his stats are a little bit like middle of the pack. This is a mid laner who does what the team requires of him, and is not necessarily the flashiest or the most statistically impressive.
I completely agree, Trevor. He has a lot of intangibles, as you would say, that aren't necessarily reflected in KDA. You'd say the same thing about Ambition and some of his players as they qualified here for Worlds. But what I really take from him is he's a smart player. He knows his role. Usually it is wave clear and be able to assist for Mystic in particular. But we saw him solo killing Jensen on the Jace when he tried to be the fulcrum of the early game just a week ago. So he can morph himself, even if he's not a faker when it comes to being a household mid laner name.
Absolutely agree. And in the bottom lane, Ben landed a Taric stun onto Ruler to burn his barrier. So that lane that you were looking to Samsung to be dominant in isn't necessarily getting that type of advantage as of yet.
The only dominance here is a push advantage, and the moment Xie hits 6, and if they can get any control wards on the bot side of mid lane, even pushing becomes pretty risky for the side of Samsung. So the inevitability of the 2v2 being a pushing lane can be a blessing and a curse.
Well, the gold lead that Samsung have been able to pick up, thanks to that pushing and thanks to some small CS advantages, is almost all concentrated in Ambition, thanks to that kill. Plus 500 over Condi. Thankfully for Condi, he got that reply kill and helped Xie out in that laning phase. Getting that early double buff and just keeping Team WE within touching distance, but they still are at a deficit. So let's see whether or not WE, how and where they can find those team fights, how and where they can find those engages, because the onus is somewhat on them with this team composition, but to go forward, use the Tarek job in the Rumble and obviously followed up with Gallery.
Right, because one thing that Samsung has is they'll have that split push advantage with the Gnar later in the game, and they also can find ways to initiate fights, in part because of the Varus, but also the Malzahar and the Gragas. So a lot of tools that Samsung have given themselves to work with, that's one of the trademarks of them that can make them a bit more of a consistent team. So they aren't necessarily rushing this early game.
What I really like is the execution is what matters on the Samsung side. They've got the ability to disengage. They've got the ability to set up engage. There's a lot more diversification, but it all comes down to decision-making and implementation. Let's see who's going to get ahead. Condi looking for Cuvée, who's got Flash available.
Wordless at least.
Meganar's coming very close, by the way. It's a sidestep down. Cataclysm's not even going to hold Cuvée in place, so pretty easy persuasion.
Yeah, Condi was looking for the big play. He was trying to predict the leap or the flash from Cuvée. Cuvée didn't bite on the prediction, so he saved both of his summer spells, and Condi just has to walk away.
He saved his leap as well, so advanced techniques there, holding onto the leap meant there was really no way that a flash could be forced out. Like what you guys were talking about, specifically on the engage on Samsung's side, all of that engage can be used for disengage from Ambition, Ruler, and CoreJJ especially, and from there, if Cuvée can get big enough on this build, if he goes for a DPS build,
He just
can
showed
do a lot of
top.
work.
Gallo's also not in range to ult as of yet. He's trying to make it there, but Crown is matching.
957's got teleport available. Xie trying to cover the distance, but it looks like Crown has already got sort of the positional advantage in the river. The threat of the dive mitigated as Ambition backs away, but it's not over yet.
It's usually very hard to break bot lane against a Galio team, so Samsung is playing this very slow. The dive is incredibly risky. That's when the Galio comes and turns it around, but if they get this early turret, it is huge for Samsung's ability to play the side lanes, and they're going to get it.
Oh, Mystic and Ben, they're just going to back away. Xie and 957 either not in position or not comfortable enough to try and defend. A tower first blood goes to Samsung.
You don't normally see it with the Galio like you mentioned, but Malzahar specifically, we talked about in the late game percentage damage. He actually has 2 ranged interrupts to the hero's entrance as well, just the regular silence on the Q and the suppression on the ultimate. Very hard to make the counter roam. They don't have control over the bot side either, so had to respect the potential for collapse onto the Malzahar. And now the Twitch and Tarek pushed in, and the Varus unlocked them.
957 starts to overheat, gets good flame spitter damage on the Cuvée, only before eating all of those autos of the boomerang and the hyper. 957 comes away worse for wear. He's still 10 CS down. Somewhat expected in the matchup though. A little bit difficult in those early phases, and Cuvée is definitely one of the superstars of Samsung, has been for quite a long time.
Yeah, but the thing to focus on in this graphic is the 0.17 KDA. They picked up 1 kill at the end, and I believe he was 6 deaths in that game as well. His laning has been impressive. He's able to get the advantage with these winning matchups, but it's about what they can do after that. And this game, all of the matchups are winning for Samsung.
That's why I'm a big fan of the Gnar, and I was the same when we saw 2 games from Huni on the Gnar yesterday, is you do straddle the line from being lane dominant to having backup team fight options, and even build innovation like we mentioned earlier, with just going heavier on the AD and being a pure split push Gnar. You can do a lot of things. He does have lane control, but it doesn't come at the cost of a late game team fighting tank.
Well, the lane control has equated to 1,500 gold, and the item advantage, gentlemen. Ardent Sensor, Morella Nomicon, Ninja Tabak for Ruler, making his way towards that Rage Blade, of course. So, item advantages here in favor of Samsung, if they want to look for any advantages, or they can just keep playing the map, play the towers. There's a Mountain Drake available as well. So, a lot of objectives to play around, without necessarily putting themselves in a position where the team fight power of WE's composition will make up for that lack of gold.
Yeah, and you also have to ask, how is Team WE going to get enough control of the map to force the team fights. That's really where this game is going to try and reach its breaking point. So Condi's going to have to get some type of side lane advantage, whether he can get Ruler's flash or Cube's flash to start getting his advantages, because as of yet, if he keeps making these empty ganks up to lanes, not getting any summoner spells, they're going to slowly lose this match.
Ambition once again showing his face down bottom. Mystic was able to sneak his way out. That ambush, obviously not being spotted. And that means WE, now they're going to be defending the inner turret of the bottom lane. Where's the minimap? There's no movement yet. Condi's going to be here late. That's a lot of damage going down.
And you can see Crown is there to cut off Galio if he chooses to come. Already
So
there.
good by Samsung.
There's nothing that Jia can do.
No, there's not at all. However, 957 can join the fight. Teleport comes down. The flag and drag flash gets the knockup onto Ruler, and the Cosmic Radiance will land. That's not going to be enough of a monsoon. And Core JJ's the first of the fight. That's a flash forward from Ruler. They've swapped sides. Ruler's now running for his life. The Shea with the Winds of War. The flash, the Durant taunt. That gets another. This fight's getting messy as the Dazzle sets up a stun for Ben to set up a
Crown's
kill.
here.
Three-man body slam from Ambition. And now everybody turns their attention to the Crown. He's going to get dropped, taken down, and Team WE trade 4 for 2.
It was just like the teleport play that got them back into the series against C9 at 20 minutes. Earlier here, the Rumble comes in, the flag drag into Flash from Condi to force the fight, Equalizer to start it, and they decimate Samsung across the board.
And it was such a close fight, even so. It's so difficult for Team W to actually get the fights that they want, but not only do they get the kills, they've also burned every single flash on Samsung, which means the next fight for them is easier to force.
Get a replay soon, but the start of it looked so good for Samsung when they were cutting off the Galio from joining the Rumble, though. And he has one at his turret. He comes in, Equalizer onto Ruler, and things look good for W.
Yeah, and also having the Taric ultimate at the right time and focusing Core JJ primarily. I do have to question a little bit the Galio ultimate target selection by Shea not going for Mystic's Twitch as he was getting focused at the back of the fight. But the chase at the end, very pivotal. Everyone getting so low with the Taric, but he has AoE abilities on all those heals and shields, and they fully commit onto Crown to make sure he can't get a kill.
Nara may have been strong, may have been farmed, but he came in mini-Nara form. When the fight is started by WE, Samsung need a bit more setup time compared to Galio and Rumble, who can have instant impact. The instant impact was felt, and Samsung fell down.
And we talked so much in the group stages about the way Team WE focuses in team fights, and I thought for them it was more pronounced than anyone else. They focus support, then AD carry, and that's why Mystic had the largest damage per minute difference amongst him and other AD carries, because other AD carries were not finding success against Samsung. So watch specifically this game. If Team W can kill Core JJ and put Equalizer on top of Ruler, they eliminate a lot of the damage threats on Samsung's side. It is very difficult to pull off, though, as Samsung has so many threats.
And of course, it also removes all that disengage power. That Monsoon didn't do a lot, just bought some time for JJ. We saw a setup for Ambition, waiting in the wings of that Tribush, and while Team WE are dealing with their blue buff, Condi's backing up the duo lane, and WE hold onto the top outer turret is still an advantage for Samsung. Samsung is still continuing to push and pressure, but a great team fight win for WE. They've got the gold also into Shie's hands. So Manu on the front line, keeping Mystic and 957 alive and distracting Samsung. He's getting as tanky as you can.
And it's so delicate for Samsung to play this sort of play style. They try to poke onto turrets. They don't have Rage Blade yet, so they don't really have backup team fighting options, even with Ardent Sensor complete. But because summoners are down, they can't stay for extra minion waves to try to take down this top lane turret with the Jarvan lurking around topside. They have to back out. They do pick up their item, but there's always windows to punish when Varus has flash on cooldown.
Exactly, and there's still so much to play in this game. Cube hasn't even popped his cull yet, and Team WE, I feel like, has already had to make one game-saving team fight. The fact that they were able to teleport in and get those kills kept them in it, but Samsung can continue to build on these advantages. Cube is going to pop his cull. He's going to have a larger split push advantage. Ruler will be able to find some fights with Rage Blade, and his flash will be back up again. So Team WE still in a pretty difficult spot, but have made it this far.
All right, does Ruler and Core JJ bite the bait? Condi, we don't know if he's recalled. There's the vision toggle. The engage comes down onto Ruler. Also gets the hero's entrance from Shea. But the Cosmic Radiance has already been thrown down by Ben. The attention gets focused onto Ruler. Nethergrass holds Shea in place. Soul of the Void goes out as well as the Void Swarm. Those little crabs are looking for blood. Condi forced to run defensively. Samsung survived the engage. Body slam comes up from Ambition. Condi's knocked backwards. He's got no flash available, and Ruler gets his first in the game.
So they pick up a kill here, Trevor, but look mid lane as well. Nara's pushing up the minion wave, so they're winning in 2 spots at the same time.
And they just didn't have the damage to kill him. There was the Janna who they didn't focus immediately, which is what they have excelled at before. That's why you have to kill the Janna first. The Monsoon, the shield, the barrier, keep Ruler alive, Crown roams up, and that's the pressure game that Samsung was waiting to be able to play.
Look at that gold spike, 3,000 and nearly taking the mid turret as well. They're also going to get Rift Herald, so that's just the charge alone should take down that mid outer turret.
That's why when you spoke before about a game-saving team fight at 12 minutes, it sounds weird to say, but with the draft that Samsung has, the inevitability of the checklist being hit, the ruler being rotated on the Varus and taking turrets, it felt like the game was already getting away earlier. That's why W made their second proactive move. But like you say, instead of focusing for JJ, they use everything on ruler who has barrier up, heal was up, the turnaround starts, and in all of this, Nara is already in the mid fight.
Exactly. Nara's in the mid lane. The Rumble doesn't have teleport at the very start of that fight. Looks like he gets it by the very end of it. And then Ambition has a very well-aimed ultimate. Doesn't have flash before this. The full range knockback onto Condi after he'd already flagged and dragged away to get that kill.
During the course of the fight, Mystic was sitting around at 1,400 gold. Ruler had that Rage Blade, so disadvantage in items. Mystic has spent that since. Picked up the Runon's Hurricane. 957 got himself Leandries, but WE 3,000 gold down as we approach 20 minutes. Black Cleaver for QV. He's got that cult bonus gold. WE might just be gifted this mountain drake. There's no one to contest.
So you see Samsung picking on to top side. WE taking down Drake's actually always something to narrow in on, because traditionally they are the lowest priority team when it comes to Drake. Famously, get Mystic 2 items, hit those gold marks. Even if you trade down a little bit, if you get your 80 carry the gold early, which turrets and minions provide, then you're doing your job. So I think Samsung are very happy to opt into these sort of trades.
It's definitely out of character, because this is going to allow Samsung to get a turret trade for Mountain Drake, which will be deferred power. And Team WE, I feel like, need to find the Jarvan Galio fights sooner rather than later, although the Twitch in the very late game does have a late game win condition based on performance. It's just not what we're used to seeing at a Team WE, and you can see the pressure that they may have been able to defend against that they lose by going for that Mountain Drake.
Oh man, Samsung aren't even done yet. They're going for the inner mid turret. Team Wave is going to make its way up fairly soon. Use those crabs at least.
They're looking for a flank, but they're out of sync right now, and Cube could still match with teleport, so just a lot of turret damage in mid lane by Samsung. Look at the gold lead now, 5,000.
Out of almost nowhere, but there was standing gold before. Thought the game was slowed down by one great TP play, but another one answers it. This is what Samsung picked for. It's very delicate to pull off a comp like this. Another turnaround fight, and maybe it's all over. Bit of damage on the Shia, but it's all about that inner mid lane turret.
Yeah, that definitely was the case. Chain of Corruption prevents any further follow-up. Tower falls 5-0 now in favor of Samsung Galaxy, and they've got absolute control of the top half of the map.
Yeah, and this is with Team WE pulling off that advantageous fight in the bottom side. The wave pressure has been relentless from Samsung. The way they have bounced back from the game one where they really lost control of everything. Ambition getting first blood helps enormously. Mystic will be able to pick up this one turret, but now Team WE is in full defense mode, and Baron is up.
On the one bright side, if WE can find Samsung in a choke point, Galio, Job, and Rumble can make up a large chunk of that.
dream.
A large chunk of that 5K, but that is then dependent on getting through Janna and Kragus in the disadvantage.
And I love that point, because usually when it's 5,000 gold at 20 minutes, you're like, well, you can't fight, you're getting pushed around, you're in a really bad spot. There is no effective gold lead when you get a perfect equalizer layered into a spray and pray. If everything goes exactly as mentioned by WE, they can still win a fight, but finding the right fight, actually being invited to a fight that Samsung also opts into, is pretty damn tricky to do.
And I really like the early redemption out of Core JJ, because we've already seen how the damage is a little bit delayed when Team WE go in for this. So even if Core JJ does die, he can still redemption the equalizer to help equalize the fight, so to speak, just getting everyone's health back up so they can win later with the deferred Malzahar damage throughout the duration of the fight.
So, Team WE, where are you going to find this miracle fight? How long can you defend before Samsung can just keep using this QV split push power, getting tankier as well to complement that Black Cleaver. Just play on the side lane, and 957 is going to have such a difficult time. Going to be playing wave clear duty. Cannot afford to overextend either because QVL just run him down.
While I'm quick to compliment Ambition, one area where his game may fall apart is those old man mechanics. The Baron smites are not normally that on point by Ambition, and Condi is known for his Baron steals. If you opt into the wrong fight, somehow Samsung are caught behind the Baron, and the AoE wombo comes down. The Baron is stolen. There is still a fight that WE wins around there, but it's really going to be more about control probably for Samsung than actually starting the objective.
Exactly. Look at the minion waves. That's the story of this game right now. As long as all of them are pushed into Team WE, Samsung is in control of this game.
I love that you mentioned the Baron stealing from Condi. Team WE find themselves in situations where they need to steal a Baron to stay in the game more often than maybe they would like. QV goes in for a full combo onto 957, and that's as expected because this should unlock the tower.
But you kind of have flashbacks of that Fnatic versus RNG game 2 where the Baron still brought RNG back in. Already we see on screen, 957 losing trades to QV. Starting the Baron is probably the only way Samsung can decide to lose. But
trying to go for it.
Condi's looking for the fight. Samsung is split up. This could be good. Rula gets a lot of shields and heals. The Radiance is interrupted by the Monsoon. But a beautiful equalizer. That's the first. The second. Now Mystic is looking for support, trying to chase down Ambition. Ambition's holding onto his flash and WE. The kills will buy some time.
Condi is so clever. Sneaking through and then being able to pull the trigger, and also how the initiation was desynced around Core JJ, being able to find him after he's cast his Monsoon. But what happens after? They got 2 kills. Ruler and Core JJ are almost back up. They haven't even gotten control of the Baron Pit.
Getting objectives with one of these wombo comps needs more than just 2 kills when all the lanes are pushing against it. But this was picture perfect. There's a reason that WE are known for their team fighting prowess. There was some really small things here, apart from just the layering of CC, that worked well for WE. But like you say, Jat, we reset. They don't even really clear out wards around the Baron. They have to do this again and again.
Like, what is this fight worth in the end of the day? It's 900 gold and a flash on the Janna. They need to be able to find so much more. Watching this, though, Condi's sitting on that one controller for a long period of time. The mid lane shows, so Crown feels very safe, but they pull the trigger, and it's just the Galio and the Jarvan at the start.
So watch Ruler. He still has flash and barrier up, doesn't use them. He's ready to flash over the wall, but the equalizer both gets the enemies and means that Ruler has no outlet to flash to. He will die if he flashes, dies with flash up, which I guess is small consolation, but everything perfectly synced for WE.
You can see that equalizer damage, gentlemen. 957 stealing the show. But as we mentioned, it is a delay. It buys WE time. That 5,000 gold lead, you've heard the narrative so many times. It means less the longer the game goes. And of course, when WE find those narrow choke points, when they find those places to fight, they can overcome some of those challenges. But it's still going to take another 10, 15 minutes before it's really equalized and evens out the footing there.
And Team WE want to find a fight while the Janna flashes down right now. So they have a brief window to get some control over the Baron area, but you can see the respect they're giving as well to the current power spikes of Samsung and Malzahar and Varus.
And Samsung haven't always been super disciplined with how they play with a 4-1 advantage. Last game of group stage, they had a fed Camille who could 1v1 Rumble. And it's
On to Core JJ.
There we go. It's Condi as well as the backup. The torch comes down, but they haven't got the kills. The healing is so good. Look at the suppression down into Mystic. He's going to get shut down. Cosmic Radiance keeps him alive. There's still not enough follow-up damage. Somehow, WE are unable to find anything. QV saves the day, and Rula turns it around. That Cosmic Radiance was so close to being game-changing.
But Core JJ played that as perfectly as a flashless Janna can. He waited out all the CC, and because Team WE wasn't coordinated enough to threaten beforehand, they got wrecked.
Watching for the turn here, though. The Baron steal potential is real.
QV's just going to kill Condi.
That would stop.
Well, Condi's running away with his life, cannot flag and drag into the pit, and the son of Baron will be unable to help out his team now. One more house, not quite as exciting, and finally takes him down. QV Such a great turnaround, and 10,000 gold just shy of it in the lead for Samsung.
I mean, this is all about close but no cigar. WE go for their second big team fight. Feel like they need to make the initiation. The layering to start it was picture perfect.
They have him on top of the equalizer, but he gets off a full charge Monsoon and his level 11. And then the timing of Crown to Ultimate Mystic, the instant he opens up to prevent the damage from coming through onto them, allows the shields to chain the entire time.
And a suppression effect means no auto attacks. It means nothing can be done by Ruler, who even lived longer, but with his low health bar was always going to die. The big objective goes to Samsung. Equalizer does insane damage, 4,200, even from behind for WE. They're now 9,000 gold behind because of all of it. Almost the perfect fight, but because those earlier objectives had gone to Samsung, there were more items, the Johns didn't instantly pop, and they could reset the fight.
Man, the level of team fights in that sort of corridor, in that sort of situation, is crazy, and Samsung still pulled it off.
Both these teams are team fighting gods. Maybe Samsung struggled in groups, but they made most of their wins with 40-minute team fights for the majority of the past 2 years when their form started to turn in summer of 2016. So while the picks aren't as obviously late game scaling, they can make them work.
And with the Baron now a 9,000 gold lead, they just set up shop and dare Team WE to fight them again, because they have shown that you can try and do that Jarvan Galio combo, but you have to be so perfectly coordinated, otherwise Samsung will kill you. And then even if you kill Ruler, Crown and Cube are enough diversified threat that they can get through. And
Samsung are making this Galio Jarvan combo look mortal, but they're trying again.
All right, take a look. There's the Monsoon to buy some time. Cosmic Radiance will land, and that will keep Condi alive a few seconds longer, but Ambition sticks around on the front line. Crown is bouncing the Malefic Visions from target to target, and Cube gets himself a double kill from 0-6-1 in game 1 to 6-1-3. Cube's Gnar has taken over this game, and Samsung are setting up on the Nexus.
Just another picture-perfect fight for Samsung in dealing with that combo. Everyone able to withstand the burst. They're going to win 28 minutes in.
They absolutely will. Condi and Shie running for their lives. The Nexus is focused down, and Samsung Galaxy even the series 1-1.
Not often do you see 2 back-to-back fights with perfect CC layering, and yet both of them are losses. But when you play the map as well as Samsung could in this game, equalizers and cataclysms be damned. The re-engage and the ability to disengage fights, the Janna in particular, when not focused down, like the first big team fight of the game, reset fight after fight, and Samsung won them all.
And even though this series is now at 1-1, with Team WE getting the Kassadin Shen split push and an even faster victory than 28 minutes, I feel like this win might mean a little bit more for Samsung, because Team WE took their best shot. They got Jarvan Galio and Twitch and Rumble and Tarek. They got all of that team fight wombo combo, even got team fights, and still lost. So when they go back to the drawing board of what they can do next, they're going to be hesitant to pull out that combo again. And as the best of 5 goes on, and as the draft becomes more and more complex, that's something that doesn't change. They lost with this combo.
When we talked about Samsung Galaxy, after the Longzhu win, we said they kind of downloaded Longzhu. They knew their tendencies, they beat them with them. This was classic WE. We said it in the draft, and Samsung were ready for that. They 1-3-1 comp with the Kassadin, with the Shen. That was a big difference. They played it before, but it's not the standard WE. Couldn't download that one. That's why it's so fun, because I feel like Game 3 will confirm the download or show that maybe WE has more tricks they just haven't had to show.
Galio plus Jarvan was 7-2 coming into the day. Now it is 7-3. Let's send it to Dash and the analysts. Their thoughts on how Samsung gave it the third loss.
Thank you very much. Quick shot. And while J4 Galio moves to 7-3, Janna moves to 41-15.
Even
from
more
40-15 before the game. But hey, both of these teams here come out with different looks in game 2. This time, Samsung get the better of WE.
Exactly. The most important part of the difference of this draft and the last draft, we talked about a lot of the power picks weren't traded. A lot of the questions weren't answered. This time around, both of them, were trading power in different areas, and it came so much more down to the in-game, execution. Janna is given over as the first pick, but then, as they said, you're able to get this combo for Team WE. Samsung, though, they still kept focus, and they were able to get the answer to the Galio with the Malzahar that we've seen over and over for this tournament, and critically, the super strong bottom lane for them. The Varus is a comfort pick for Ruler.
And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you're looking at this WE comp, you're like, oh my god, that team fight is terrifying, but Samsung had ways to deny the team fight from them, at least until they're very far ahead. And they have a winning lanes bot. They have a pushing lane top even with the Gnar who can get advantages there. And the Malzahar, this is a great answer to the Galio. So when you draft these winning lanes, when you're putting pressure on your opponents, it makes it so hard for them to actually be able to group up and find those team fights, because anytime you go for an opportunity, you're going to be losing turrets elsewhere. You're going to be taking damage on the other side of the map because the minions are already at your objectives.
Yeah, I just want to say that there were 6-1 in turrets before you really got to see the Wombo combo come through.
It's true. I just really like both drafts. Like, it's rare. I kind of go into it. and I'm
Deficio approved drafts. I like it. Then let's get into some fights, huh? Because we
Yeah.
got a few to look at here. 12 minutes in, WWE taking the initiative, 4 for 2 in the bot lane.
And they're in a really tough spot at this point. It kind of felt like Samsung was going to run away with the game. Cuba was doing great on top side. And obviously the very first replay here is Condi, who's deciding.
What do you give Condi out of 10 on this play, Kobe?
That's actually a 0, okay? Because he knew that Gragas had vision on him. The plant leaves the little spores around
He
whatever
was
it
sparkled.
reveals.
He knew it.
He was sparkling, and then he also sees the Gragas come at him, start the body slam, and he had flash up, but he wants to...
And he baited me as well. I thought it was going to be a big flashy team fight, but it's just Condi.
So did I, but we're checking to make sure we have that replay. If we have it,
All right.
then we'll pull it up. But,
Otherwise, we can
Does
just
this
Condi
young
dying
man-
again.
But before we do it, let's set up then these two compositions and the way they want to interact, right? Because, again, looking at the J4, the Galio, the Rumble, there's a very specific way that Team WE wants to take a fight.
Yeah, so the entire idea is that Condi on the Javan is the one who engages into the back line of Samsung, and then you have a Galio ulti that follows, you have a Rumble ulti that comes down, and then all the focus is on that big circle in the middle where Galio flies in, while Twitch is kind of unnoticed and can then sneak in position to open up and hit 2 to 3 guys also in the back line. That's what's supposed to happen, but again, it's all relying on basically all 5 members have perfect synergy when they do this. And if one guy's out of position or not there, it kind of falls apart.
And it is what we saw at 12 minutes in the bot lane. Unfortunately, we don't have that fight, so I'm going to push us forward 4 minutes to the top lane, where WE, perhaps, kind of incentivized by that one bot lane fight, try the very same thing here in the top lane. This time, though, Samsung Galaxy have the response.
And Condi does go in here, and they try and take down Ruler right next to Janet. We got to see the knockback here, the disengage they're talking about. Critically, one of those key components Deficio is talking about, the extra damage from the Rumble ultimate, isn't here. So at this stage in the game, they don't have enough damage to push through.
And this was like a huge play for Samsung because they just lost that big fight before this year, and it looked like W were getting back in this game. But if you are Samsung as well, you're kind of hoping that your support gets to redemption as fast as possible. You hope there comes in some magic resist items where Wit's End was in there. Janna was also building towards a locket, and suddenly you start having some resistances against the Galio and the Rumble.
And honestly, in that top lane play, when you're going that all in under the turret, I was actually surprised that they didn't TP the Rumble in, because he had that available during the entire fight, even when they're starting to get chased back to their base, because you talked about how it has to be everything at the same time, and that is really what we didn't see come to fruition, especially when you are down on gold. Everyone needs to hit the same target, or Janna heals through it with the ultimate, with the redemption, with the shields. And if you don't kill someone in that additional burst, the rest of your team fight is pretty crap.
And we saw a couple of times, even when the Rumble is there, you have to account for the small displacement from the Galio ultimate as well, because a couple of times the key priority targets are right next to a Rumble ultimate and not actually burning.
And funnily enough, even though only one kill comes through in that engagement, we quickly saw 3 turrets go down in favor of Samsung Galaxy, along with a Rift Herald, so the gold really started flooding in. And to that end, we saw WE make one more stab at perhaps taking the game with a team fight. This one's going to come 25 minutes in. Samsung Galaxy to turn it 3-0. This one brought to you by Acer Predator.
And it is important to highlight how close these fights are, because here we get engaged with the Javan, the Rumble ulti, the Galio. Now, Kobe did mention that maybe they get pushed out of this Rumble ulti, or some of them. We even get Twitch who sneaks in from the side. This is like moments away from being a perfect fight for WE. But then there's no QSS on Mystic. He gets instantly ulted by Crown, and suddenly Cubic comes back as well and actually stops anyone from dying.
Yeah, you sneak up on a Malzahar, you're going to get Malzahar ulted as the AD carry that is isolated. And then you talked about, someone keeping their eye on this Twitch in the backline and having him be unseen. Well, Cube just makes a beeline right for him.
For sure, and that's why it's so much about the timing, right? If that Twitch had been opening about 2 seconds earlier when the Galio's still on top of the Malzahar, that cannot happen. Maybe the Malzahar, if the Rumble ultimate's placed a little bit better, he's still cooking in that while he's CC'd up, the Twitch opens up. That is a fight that can lead to Baron. and then it's very likely a WE game. That could put it back in their favor.
Exactly, and that's why I said I like both drafts, because I felt like WE, even despite losing this quickly, had some of those big
They had their
fights where
chances.
we're talking just a few seconds, like it goes off, and then bam, it goes the other way.
And I really liked what Samsung side lanes did in this game because they, yes, in the draft, they were able to set up, these possible winning scenarios here. Nar, Cuve definitely deserves a lot of credit into the Rumble because they actually had J4 visiting this matchup, and this can be a very Rumble-favored matchup, especially early with jungle pressure, yet he's able to scale up super well on this Gnar, and the bottom lane does get the snowballing going for the team.
And I thought his build was actually really intelligent to play around that, right? He knew that he could be vulnerable early, so he goes Cowl, then into the Black Cleaver, then fishes an adaptive before he goes to the Frozen Mallet. So, building more to survive and sustain in that matchup, and then he was able to actually take over in the later team fights.
And this is why we looked at Cuve as one of the big shining lights on Samsung. It is a team where you don't talk about massive superstars who's making big flasher plays all the time, but if there's one man who will do it, it is Cuve.
And yesterday, right, we were looking at Huni, SKT, one of the few teams that definitely does look to play around their top laner. Samsung Galaxy at times has been known to do the same. Both of these teams finding success in this tournament, whereas others are still very much indexing towards that bottom lane. Real briefly, moving on to game through, WE back to blue side. What are we thinking here is the response? Because you say you're happy with both drafts, we can honestly just run it back, right, and just see who executes better this time around?
I think a little bit more early game focus towards the bottom side of the map because in the pre-game for this entire series, we talked about, yes, in the past, WE have been able to kind of limp through the early game with a losing bottom lane and still, bring Mystic up to this level to carry the team fights, but this was too much. As I said, 6-1 in turrets is such a big goal deficit to try and come back from.
Yeah, I just love to see them have the pushing bottom lane, see what they can get done with the advantage, because that bot lane is such a strength for WE.
WE gave up too much early. Samsung Galaxy adapted in game 2 to tie the series. We'll see what Team WE can break out in game 3 after the break.
Mission, still 100 hit points to go through. Now Crown low on mana. He can't do anything more. Winter War passes the double buff. The flash, the Durant taunt, that gets another. This fight's getting messy as the Dazzle sets up a stun for Fizz to set up a kill. Here, mad body slam from Ambition, and now everybody turns their attention to the Crown. He's going to get dropped, taken down, and Team WE trade 4 for 2.
주문 나왔어.
There's the Monsoon to buy some time. Cosmic Radiance will land, and that will keep Condi alive a few seconds longer, but Ambition sticks around on the front line. Crowd is bouncing the Malefic